Today we're going to do things a little different. I'm going to show you how to read this signal, how to use the algo, and really understand what all these lines and colors mean. So first things first, every single morning you get a direction plus target. In this day, we have direction towards the upside with the target up here. So the target will always be this green line and this green line. Okay, so let me just mark that down as well. So if this was going towards the downside, then it would be looking like this. Okay, so the target going down. But because it's to the upside, we'll just leave the upside. The next thing to note is the pink middle. Okay, I'm gonna label this as middle. The middle is very, very important, and it's going to be the key to understanding this all. The middle is basically your neutral zone, and anything here, let me just move this arrow out of the way so it's not complicated. Anything above the pink is going to be puts. So above the pink is puts. Okay. And then the opposite for below. Below the pink is calls. Okay. So always remember, if price action goes above the pink, we want it to go down. If price action goes below the pink, we want it to go up. So always remember, it's the opposite. Under the pink means calls, above the pink means puts. Okay? I'm just going to leave this down here in case you forget some steps as we keep going through this tutorial. Okay, next is your entry zones. The way we do the entry zones are based by groups of colors. The target only has one green line, right? One green line here and one green line down here. You're never going to find two green lines, three green lines, or four green lines. It's only going to be a single green line. Therefore, it will always be used as a target only. Now for entry zones. Anything that has 2, 3, or 4 of the same color is going to be an entry zone. Above the pink, we got the blue. Below the pink, we got yellow. Above these blues, we got 2 reds. Below this yellow, we got, I don't know, to me it's purplish. Okay. Above the red, we have orange, another group. And below this purplish color, there's only one single gray, but that's irrelevant, and there's nothing under. So there is no entry 3. I'm now going to label them so it'll be easier when we go through it. So this would be entry 1. Sorry, entry 1 for puts. And then this one would be entry 1 for calls. Here would be entry 2 for puts. And then this one would be entry 2 for calls. And finally, entry 3 for puts. Now there is no entry 3 for calls because they're just the algo didn't give me any indications for an entry 3, so we're going to leave it as entry 2 being your lowest point. If there is an entry 3, then I will let the members know in the Discord. The direction for this day was to the upside. So we disregard anything above the pink. We don't care about puts, we only want calls. So disregard this blue entry zone. Disregard this red entry zone. Disregard this orange entry zone. We only want what's under the pink. The yellows and the purples. Entry 1, entry 2. Okay? Below the pink is always going to be calls. All right? So now let's play the candlesticks and get an idea of how to enter. Okay. So the signal would have been given around this time. And here we had a drop to your first area where you're going to enter for calls. Now, I like to follow a rule when it comes to sizing your position. I call it 25, 50, 25. This means that whatever amounts you're playing with, 25% is to be put in entry 1, 50% is to be put in entry 2, and the remaining 25% to be in entry 3. In this case, there's no entry 3, but for the future, just remember that. Now, you don't have to follow this. You can change it up. You can do 40 at the start, a little less in the middle. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter. This is just a guideline. It makes it a lot more easier, especially if you're a beginner. If you know what you're doing and you're more of an expert in this, then just do your own sizing. It's all up to you really at the end of the day. So entry 1, we got 25% of our position. Now, if it goes to the target, always, and this is another recommendation, you don't have to, but always sell 80% of your position and leave some runners just in case we continue to trend up. Now, there is no level here, but I'm just going to add it. Sometimes we get something called extended targets. This is not algo related. These are levels of interest that I give to my members the night of or morning during the pre-market. This is just an idea of how much more it can go after the target. So you want to sell 80% at the target and leave some runners that you're willing to sacrifice to try and test the next target, which I call extended targets. Okay? So we got entry 1. Let's continue. Okay. Now, here you have your target hit. You trim 80%, and I mean, depending on the style of trade, I personally like to do a trailing stop loss and leave some runners for the extended target. Now, of course, it's not a perfect world, and it's not just gonna go the way you want it. Maybe if it doesn't go up to extend target, it might go back down. So if it goes back down, this is now what we call round 2. Okay. So now round 2 is only if we don't continue trending up. If it decides to come back down, we now look for entry 1 all over again. Or maybe it goes down to entry 2, and now we're adding a lot more. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we get a nice little flush down. 10 a.m. Sorry, it's 10:05, so maybe there was some news here and then dropped it. So you can either take some for your round 2 position, or as I like to recommend for beginners, just wait till entry 2 is hit, because I call this the bread and butter move. I like it when it goes down the opposite direction, because the more it goes against you, or in terms of the direction you want, the cheaper your contracts will be. And I like my discounts, and I want a bigger move. You would get a bigger move from here going to the target than you did from here. So let it pull back, let it come to you, don't chase it, just be patient. Now we're in entry 2. So now I want to take my position. I'm ready for this. So round 2, I want to test the target again, trim 80%, and leave some runners for the extended targets. Okay. And there you go. So as you can see here, we had entry 1 hit the target quick, pulled back, entry 2 went up to the target, and we went to the extended target. So this is just a really basic, non-complicated kind of day. Really straightforward, simple entry zones, simple guidelines, simple areas to add to your positions. Let's go check out another chart. All right, so here is another day, another signal, another chart. The target is to the downside. Okay, so remember, the target is the green line. It's not the actual letters. Always use the green single line. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We have, again, always remember, the pink is your middle. Now, the first group of colors above the pink is this purplish color, but it's overlapping this blue. So because they are overlapping, it is going to be a sweeter area to add. It gives it more strength in terms of entry 1 being the winning area. Now, that's not always going to be the case. It's not going to be perfect, but ideally, all of this is going to be entry 1 instead of just one group of colors, because we have 2 groups of colors overlapping each other. But you can still do it originally how it is. You can do entry 1 here and entry 2 here. It's really up to you. You can call all of it as entry 1, or you can split them into entry 1 and entry 2. I kind of like it like this, but it's preference at the end of the day. All right. Now, green line is the upside target, but we're not doing upside. The direction is downside. And here is your next group of colors. There are 2 reds. So depending on what you call this, will be entry 2. Or entry 3. Just depends what you label this as. This will be number 2 or number 3. Doesn't really matter. Now, if this was going to the upside, so let's just move the direction, then here will be entry 1, and here will be entry 2. Wait, what the heck? Why is it disappearing? Entry 2. Okay, that's strange. I don't know why that's happening. Entry 2. Entry 1. Okay, cool. So we have entry 1, entry 2 if it was going to the upside. Anything under the pink is calls. So entry 1 calls up, entry 2 calls up. Now, the direction is for the downside. So that means we're only looking at puts. Okay. And remember, we have extended target here as well. So trim 80% at target, leave some runners for the extended. Let's begin. All right, now this is the biggest issue that a lot of people are mixing up. Because it's downside, people think that they can just add in this yellow. The yellow is for calls only. It's under the pink. Above the pink is puts, below the pink is calls. Do not add to any position under the pink if we're looking for puts. And that goes for when you're going long as well. Do not buy anything above the pink if you're going for long. So do not enter here. Wait for it to go up. Wait for the discount. Wait for the price to come to you. Just be patient. I don't care that it's going down and you're buying puts here. You can buy puts wherever you want. Do you want a good position or you want a bad position? Because right here is chasing. So now you can see we are in a sweet spot, overlapped entry 1 and entry 2. We can start our first position. But guess what? You just got yourself an 80% target hit. So trim it all, or sorry, trim 80% and leave some runners for the extended. And there you go. Imagine if you bought calls here. It's not a horrible play because it still went, but how much better would it have been if you were to just buy it at entry 1 or entry 2's overlap? See, this is what I'm trying to really show you guys is I want this algo to kind of give you a blueprint to visualize how to get better positions. It's not always just about, you know, the direction of the day. You could have it say go, you know, to the downside, but it might be, you know, it might be a little too early for the downside and you're just going to keep adding and adding and adding and you're just not going to get a sweet position. But having these entry points is going to help give you that better position, that better average. It's also going to give you discipline and patience. You are going to become a better trader if you learn to wait for entries, to snipe at your entries, to not just jump in because you're missing out on something and you're getting FOMO. Pullbacks are key. Patience is key. Use the algo for your entries. Don't just blindly enter the positions and hope to hit the target's direction. Because I'm not worried about the direction. I'm worried about how are we going to get to that target. And that's where you use the algo entry points. Always, always, always follow the rule of the middle pink. Above equals puts, below equals calls. Do not buy the opposite way. Okay? If you guys like what you see and think this can make your trading a lot easier, then make sure you like and subscribe to my YouTube. Follow me on Twitter so you can see all the signals I give and the accuracy we have. And join the Discord. I'll see you guys at the next video.